The moment I saw those two pink lines on the pregnancy test, my world exploded with possibility. I remember running to Jason, my heart hammering against my ribs, tears streaming down my face as I showed him the test. His face lit up like Christmas morning, and he swept me into his arms, spinning me around our tiny apartment kitchen while we both laughed and cried at the same time. "We are going to be parents," he whispered against my ear, his voice thick with emotion. "Our baby is going to have everything we never had." I believed him. God, how desperately I believed every single word that fell from his lips. Those 9 months of pregnancy were a symphony of transformation. My body changed, expanded, created life from nothing. I watched in awe as my belly grew, feeling tiny kicks and hiccups that made my heart swell with love I never knew existed. Jason would place his hands on my stomach every night, talking to our unborn child about baseball games and bedtime stories, about how much we already loved them. But even then, even in those golden moments, I should have seen the cracks forming. Jason started working later. He said it was for the baby, that he needed to secure our future, climb the corporate ladder faster. I understood. I supported him. I rubbed his shoulders when he came home stressed, made his favorite meals, and never complained when he missed doctor appointments or fell asleep during our birthing classes. The labor was 36 hours of hell. 36 hours of pain that ripped through my body like lightning, transforming me from the inside out. Jason held my hand through some of it, but I could see his discomfort, the way he kept checking his phone, the relief in his eyes when the nurses asked him to step out. When Leo finally arrived, screaming and perfect and impossibly small, I thought my heart might explode from the sheer magnitude of love that crashed over me. This tiny human, this miracle, was half of me and half of the man I loved. I was ready to move mountains for him. But Jason looked at our son like he was a puzzle he could not solve, a responsibility that had materialized out of nowhere. He held Leo carefully, like he might break, and I saw something in his eyes that made my stomach twist. Fear, maybe, or regret. The first few weeks were a blur of sleepless nights, endless feedings, and a kind of exhaustion I never knew existed. My body was healing from the trauma of birth. My hormones were a chaotic mess, and I was learning to navigate motherhood without a manual. I lived in milk-stained pajamas, and had not washed my hair in a week. I felt like a stranger in my own skin. Jason, meanwhile, seemed to drift further away each day. He would come home from work and head straight to his office, claiming he had important calls to make. When Leo cried at night, Jason would turn away and pretend to sleep, leaving me to stumble to the nursery in the dark, my body still aching from delivery. "I have to work tomorrow," he would mumble when I asked for help. "You know how important this promotion is." I knew. I knew because I was the one who had encouraged him to apply, who had helped him practice his presentations, who had believed in his dreams as much as my own. But where was his support for me? Where was his recognition that I was working too, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, with no breaks, no weekends, no vacation time? The isolation was suffocating. My friends had scattered after college, busy with their own lives and careers. My family lived across the country. It was just me, Leo, and the four walls of our apartment, day after endless day. I loved my son with a ferocity that surprised me, but I was drowning in the monotony, in the complete erasure of who I used to be. I tried to talk to Jason about it, tried to explain how lonely I felt, how much I needed his support. But he would brush me off, tell me that this was what I had signed up for, that being a mother was supposed to be fulfilling enough. "Other women managed just fine," he said one evening, not even looking up from his laptop. "Maybe you are just not cut out for this." His words hit me like a physical blow. Not cut out for this? I was keeping another human being alive, nurturing and protecting our child while my own identity dissolved into nothing. How was that not enough? Months passed. Leo grew bigger, more alert, more demanding. I fell into a routine of feeding, changing, playing, cleaning, cooking, and collapsing into bed only to wake up 2 hours later to do it all again. My reflection in the mirror showed a woman I barely recognized, hollow-eyed, shapeless, invisible. Jason, on the other hand, seemed to be thriving. He got the promotion he had been chasing, started traveling for work, bought expensive suits and talked about networking events and business dinners. He would come home smelling like cologne and confidence while I smelled like baby formula and defeat. The night everything changed started like any other. Leo had been fussy all day, cutting his first tooth, and I had barely managed to get him to sleep by 8 o'clock. I was in the living room, still in the same milk-stained pajamas I had worn for 3 days, my hair pulled back in a messy bun, dark circles under my eyes like bruises. Jason walked in from another late night at the office, his tie loosened, his shirt still crisp despite the long day. He looked at me sitting there on the couch, surrounded by burp cloths and baby toys, holding a cold cup of coffee I had not had time to drink. For a moment, I thought I saw something like pity in his eyes. Or maybe it was disgust. "You know," he said, his voice casual, almost conversational. "You used to be exciting. You used to care about how you looked, what you wore. You had opinions about things other than diaper brands and sleep schedules." I stared at him, too shocked to respond immediately. Was he really criticizing me for looking tired after months of caring for our child around the clock? "I mean," he continued, settling into his chair and scrolling through his phone, "I get that you are a mom now, but did you have to become so boring? So completely consumed by it? Sometimes I look at you and wonder what happened to the woman I married." The words hung in the air between us like poison. Boring. He thought I was boring. After everything I had sacrificed, everything I had given up, everything I had endured to bring his child into this world and keep him alive and healthy and happy, I was boring. I felt something crack inside my chest, something fundamental and irreparable. It was not just my heart breaking. It was my entire sense of self, my worth, my understanding of our relationship and what it meant to him. "I see," I said quietly, my voice barely above a whisper. "I am boring now." He did not even look up from his phone. "I am just saying, maybe you could make an effort. You know, for both of us." That night, after he went to bed, I sat in Leo's nursery and held my sleeping son while tears streamed down my face. This perfect, innocent child who had not asked to be born, who depended on me for everything, who loved me unconditionally. Was he really the reason I had become boring? Was motherhood really supposed to erase everything else about me? Or was Jason just an asshole who could not see past his own selfishness? The answer came to me slowly, like dawn breaking over a long, dark night. Jason had not fallen out of love with me because I had become boring. He had fallen out of love with me because I had become inconvenient. Because I represented responsibility and sacrifice and the end of his carefree bachelor lifestyle. Because loving me, really loving me, would have required him to grow up, and he was not ready for that. But I was ready for something else entirely. The idea started small, just a nagging thought in the back of my mind during Leo's afternoon naps. I would sit at my laptop ostensibly looking at mommy blogs and baby development articles, but increasingly finding myself drawn to business websites, entrepreneurship forums, success stories of women who had built something from nothing. I started with research. What problems did new mothers face? What products did we need that did not exist, or existed but were not good enough? I thought about my own experiences, the frustrations I had encountered, the corners that companies cut when they thought exhausted mothers would not notice or care. Leo's skin was sensitive, breaking out in rashes from every commercial baby product I tried. I had started making my own lotions and creams, mixing organic ingredients in my kitchen, testing formulations on his delicate skin, until I found combinations that worked. Other mothers at the pediatrician's office started asking me what I used, complimenting how soft and healthy Leo's skin looked. That was when the light bulb went off. I spent the next 3 months researching everything I could about organic skincare, about starting a business, about e-commerce and marketing and branding. I did it all during Leo's naps, after he went to bed, in the early morning hours before he woke up. I was running on 4 hours of sleep and pure determination, but for the first time in months, I felt alive. Jason noticed nothing. He was too busy with his promotion, his new responsibilities, his important meetings. He came home later and later, often smelling like alcohol and other women's perfume, though he always had an excuse ready about client dinners and networking events. I said nothing. I was too busy building my empire. The first batch of products I made in our kitchen, using the highest quality organic ingredients I could afford. I created simple, elegant packaging, took photos with my phone, and built a basic website using free templates and YouTube tutorials. I called the company Pure Beginnings and launched with 5 products: a gentle cleanser, a moisturizing lotion, a healing balm, a bubble bath, and a diaper rash cream. I had no idea what I was doing. I made mistakes, lots of them. My first website looked amateur, my photos were terrible, and I had no clue how to drive traffic or convert visitors into customers. But I learned. I studied every article, watched every tutorial, joined every forum. I treated business education like my full-time job, because it was. Jason remained oblivious. When packages arrived, I told him they were baby supplies. When I worked late into the night, he assumed I was dealing with Leo's sleep issues. When I started making money, first hundreds then thousands of dollars, I opened a separate bank account and told him nothing. The first year was brutal. I was essentially working 2 full-time jobs, being a mother and building a business. There were days when I wanted to give up, when the exhaustion felt overwhelming, when I wondered if Jason was right, and I was just not cut out for this level of ambition. But then I would look at Leo, see his bright eyes and trusting smile, and remember why I was doing this. I was not just building a business. I was building a legacy, a future, a demonstration that mothers were not boring. We were powerful beyond measure. By the end of the first year, Pure Beginnings had generated $50,000 in revenue. Not profit, revenue. After expenses, I was barely breaking even. But I was breaking even on my own terms, with my own ideas, through my own hard work. Jason's behavior, meanwhile, was becoming increasingly problematic. He stayed out later, came home drunker, and showed less and less interest in Leo or me. I caught him texting other women, found evidence of dating apps on his phone, discovered charges on our credit card for restaurants and hotels I had never been to. When I confronted him, he turned it around on me. "Maybe if you were more interesting, I would not have to look elsewhere," he said, his words slurring slightly from whatever he had been drinking. "Maybe if you put in some effort, try to be the woman I married instead of this frumpy mom version of yourself." I stared at him across our living room. This man I had once loved so desperately, and felt nothing but contempt. He had no idea what I was building, no concept of the empire growing right under his nose. He saw me as pathetic, washed up, finished. He had no idea that I was just getting started. Year 2 changed everything. I had learned from my mistakes, refined my products, improved my marketing. I partnered with mommy bloggers and Instagram influencers, got featured in several parenting magazines, and started building a loyal customer base of mothers who were hungry for products that actually worked. Revenue jumped to $400,000. After expenses, I was finally seeing real profit, enough to hire my first employee, invest in better equipment, and start planning for serious expansion. Jason lost his job. The irony was not lost on me. While he had been neglecting his family and chasing other women, his work performance had suffered. There were complaints about his behavior at company events, whispers about inappropriate conduct with junior colleagues, questions about his dedication and professionalism. The day he got fired, he came home in the middle of the afternoon, defeated and embarrassed. I was in the kitchen, packaging orders while Leo napped, when Jason walked in looking like his world had collapsed. "They let me go," he said, slumping into a chair. "Budget cuts," they said, but I know it was political. Someone had it out for me. I looked up from my work, taking in his rumpled appearance, his bloodshot eyes, his complete inability to take responsibility for his own actions. "I am sorry," I said, though I felt nothing resembling sympathy. "What will you do now?" He launched into a tirade about unfair treatment, about how he was going to sue, about how this was all a misunderstanding. He talked for 20 minutes without once asking how I was doing, how Leo was doing, or acknowledging that his unemployment meant our family had lost its primary source of income. Except, of course, we had not lost our primary source of income. He just did not know it yet. That night, after Jason had drunk himself into a stupor and passed out on the couch, I sat at my laptop and looked at my business numbers. Pure Beginnings was not just surviving, it was thriving. I had products in development that would launch in the next quarter, partnership deals in the works, and a growing team of employees who believed in the vision I was building. I was not just making money, I was making a difference. The testimonials from customers brought tears to my eyes. Mothers thanking me for creating products that had healed their children's skin conditions, that had made bath time peaceful instead of stressful, that had given them confidence in what they were putting on their babies' bodies. This was my purpose. This was what I was meant to do. And I was good at it, better than good. I was exceptional. Year 3 was when everything exploded. I launched a new line of products for toddlers, expanded into organic children's clothing, and started a subscription box service that became wildly popular. I hired a full marketing team, moved operations out of my kitchen and into a real warehouse, and started getting attention from major retailers. The revenue numbers were staggering. $2.1 million. Net profit was over $800,000. I was not just successful. I was wealthy. I was building generational wealth, the kind of financial security that would ensure Leo never had to worry about money, never had to depend on anyone else for his survival. Forbes noticed. So did Entrepreneur Magazine Incorporated, and a dozen other publications. I was invited to speak at conferences, to mentor other women entrepreneurs, to share my story of building a business from absolutely nothing. The photo shoot for the Forbes cover happened on a Tuesday morning. I wore a tailored black suit, my hair styled perfectly, my makeup flawless. Leo sat on my lap, wearing a tiny suit that matched mine, grinning at the camera like he understood the magnitude of the moment. Top 30 women entrepreneurs under 35. The headline read. The article inside told my story. Single mother builds $1 million business from her kitchen table. Organic skincare company revolutionizes baby care industry. Entrepreneur proves that motherhood is not the end of ambition, but the beginning of unstoppable determination. Jason saw the magazine at a coffee shop. A friend texted him a picture of the cover, asking if that was his ex-wife. Because by then, we were divorced. The papers had been filed 6 months earlier, when I finally had enough money and enough confidence to leave him for good. He showed up at my office the day the Forbes issue hit newsstands. My assistant tried to stop him, but he pushed past her and burst into my office like he owned the place. I was sitting behind my desk, wearing a designer dress that cost more than his monthly unemployment check, reviewing quarterly projections that would have made his former salary look like pocket change. I looked up at him calmly, feeling nothing but mild annoyance at the interruption. Ava, he said, and his voice was different now, smaller, uncertain, almost pleading. I saw the magazine. I had no idea you were. I knew you were working on something, but I never imagined. You never imagined what, Jason? I asked, my voice cool and professional. That I was capable of building something meaningful? That I had value beyond being your unpaid housekeeper and childcare provider. He looked around my office, taking in the awards on the walls, the expensive furniture, the view of the city skyline from the floor-to-ceiling windows. This was not the tiny apartment where he had called me boring. This was a corner office in a high-rise building, the kind of space he had always dreamed of having. You look incredible, he said, and there was something desperate in his voice now. You look like the woman I fell in love with. Maybe even better. I laughed, a sound with no humor in it. I look like a woman who stopped caring what you thought of her. I look like a woman who discovered her own worth. I made a mistake, he said, stepping closer to my desk. I was going through a difficult time, dealing with pressure at work, and I took it out on you. But I never stopped loving you. I never stopped believing in you. You never believed in me, I said, standing up from my chair. You called me boring. You said I was not cut out for motherhood. You cheated on me, neglected your son, and made me feel like I was worthless. Do not stand there now and pretend you saw potential in me, because we both know that is a lie. His face crumpled, and for a moment he looked like the young man I had fallen in love with in college. But that man was gone, replaced by this weak, selfish stranger who had taken everything I offered and given nothing in return. I want to try again, he said. I want to be part of this, part of what you have built. We could be a power couple, Ava. Think about what we could accomplish together. I walked around my desk until I was standing directly in front of him, close enough to see the desperation in his eyes, the way his hands shook slightly as he waited for my response. Jason, I said quietly, you had your chance to be part of something great. You had a chance to support me, to believe in me, to stand by me when I was at my lowest point. Instead, you kicked me when I was down and walked away when I needed you most. I opened my desk drawer and pulled out a copy of my book, Boring Moms Build Empires, a guide to turning your challenges into your competitive advantage. It had been published 3 months earlier and was already a bestseller. "This is for you," I said, signing the title page with a flourish. "Consider it a memento of what you lost when you decided I was not worth your time." He took the book with trembling hands, staring at the cover photo of me and Leo, both of us smiling and confident and successful. "I found myself the moment you stopped seeing me," I told him, echoing the words I had written in the book's dedication. I discovered that being called boring by someone who had no vision was actually the greatest compliment I could receive. Jason left my office that day empty-handed except for the book. I never saw him again, except in court during our custody hearings. The judge was not impressed with his unemployment status, his history of infidelity, or his complete lack of involvement in Leo's life. He got supervised visitation every other weekend, which quickly dwindled to nothing when he realized that actual parenting required effort and responsibility. Leo, now 4 years old, calls me his hero. He comes to the office with me sometimes, playing in the corner while I work, absorbing the energy and ambition and determination that surrounds him. He sees me as a powerful woman who built something from nothing, who turned pain into purpose, who refused to let anyone else define her worth. Pure Beginnings is now valued at over $10 million. We have expanded into international markets, launched a charitable foundation that provides organic baby products to families in need, and become a leader in sustainable, ethical business practices. I employ over 50 people, most of them women, many of them mothers who understand the struggle of balancing career and family. I am not the same woman who sat in milk-stained pajamas while her husband called her boring. I am not the same woman who felt invisible, worthless, trapped in a life that seemed to have no room for her dreams. I am a millionaire, a best-selling author, a respected entrepreneur, a role model for women who think their best days are behind them. But most importantly, I am a mother who showed her son that our circumstances do not define us. Our responses to those circumstances do. I am a woman who proved that being underestimated is not a weakness. It is a secret weapon. I am someone who learned that the most powerful revenge is not destroying your enemies. It is building something so magnificent that they can only watch from the sidelines and wonder what might have been. Jason thought he was married to a boring woman who had let herself go. What he actually had was a sleeping giant who just needed the right motivation to wake up. His cruelty was the alarm clock I needed to stop sleepwalking through my life and start building the empire I was always meant to rule. They say that success is the best revenge, but I disagree. The best revenge is becoming so genuinely happy, so completely fulfilled, so utterly content with the life you have built that your former tormentors become irrelevant. Jason could apologize every day for the rest of his life, and it would not matter to me. His opinion, his regret, his recognition, none of it has any power over me now. I am no longer the woman who needed his approval to feel valuable. I am the woman who discovered that the only approval that matters is the one you give yourself. And I approve of exactly who I have become. Subscribe to our channel for more incredible stories of women who turn their pain into power, their struggles into success, and their setbacks into comebacks. Every story we share proves that your current situation is not your final destination. Hit that subscribe button and join our community of unstoppable women.